I once picked up an old spark plug and a worn-out AA battery, and the memory of fixing things with whatever I had on hand made me wonder what kind of tool I could create from two pieces most folks would throw away. So I set them down on the workbench and took a closer look. The spark plug still had solid metal, and the old battery still held a few parts worth saving. It reminded me of all the times we fixed things in the garage, with whatever we could find, long before every solution came in a package. And that got me thinking, there might be one more use hidden in these pieces. Today, I'll walk you through how I turn them into a tool that can help with small repairs around the house, step by step, using simple methods you can try anytime. Here's how I walked through the first step. I opened up an old AA battery with a pair of pliers and pulled out the graphite core inside. That little rod is useful for all kinds of tests, so I slipped it into the drill and gave the trigger a try. The drill didn't even twitch, which told me the problem wasn't the motor. I moved on to the battery, took it out, and set it into the charger to see if it would wake up. The charger stayed cold, and the light never came on, so it was clear the pack wasn't accepting any charge at all. That's when I knew I'd be dealing with a dead battery that needed to be revived before anything else. Here's the next thing I did. I grabbed another drill battery that I knew still had some life in it. Then set both packs on the bench, side by side. To wake up the dead one, I used two metal binder clips as simple connectors. I clipped the positive side of the good battery to the positive side of the bad one, then did the same with the negative sides. This gives the weak pack a small push of voltage, just enough to bring it back into a range the charger can recognize. I let them sit linked for a short while, keeping an eye on the clips to be sure they stayed firm. This quick boost is often all you need to get an unresponsive battery to accept a charge again. Before we move on, share your city and state. It helps me make better projects for you. After a few minutes of boosting, I brought out the multimeter to see if the weak battery had woken up. The numbers climbed right away, which told me the cells were holding voltage again. That was a good sign, so I slipped the pack back into the charger. This time, the light came on like it should. I let it charge for about 3 hours to bring it back to full strength. By the end of that cycle, the battery was ready to go back to work. Once the battery was fully charged, I slid it back into the drill and hit the trigger. The motor spun right up smooth and strong. With the drill running again, I used it to sharpen the tip of the graphite core. Letting the spinning action shape it to a fine point. That tip is what makes the next step work the way it should. Now, I brought in the spark plug. It's a solid little part, and it gives you a safe, steady place to hold the graphite when you start heating. I stripped the end of a red wire and wrapped it right onto the metal tip of the plug, making sure the contact was tight. A good connection here keeps the heat consistent later. Once the wire was set, I used electrical tape to secure it along the body of the spark plug. This keeps everything in place, so you can handle it without the wire slipping or pulling loose. To make a steady handle, I used a round wooden dowel. I clamped it upright in a vise and drilled a straight hole through the center. Then I clamped the dowel sideways and drilled a second hole that crossed the first one. This gives you a clean path for the wire and keeps the whole setup easy to hold and control. Next, I brushed a light coat of varnish around the outside of the wooden handle. This isn't just for looks. It protects the wood from heat oils and wear so the tool lasts longer. Then I took a blue wire and stripped the end so I could attach it to a small washer. That washer acts as a clean connection point later on. I wrapped the wire securely, checked the contact, and set it aside. Now, both wires had solid ends that were easy to clip onto. To finish the handle, I pressed the spark plug all the way down into place and made sure both wires sat clean against the wood with enough slack to move, but not enough to snag. I fed the red wire from the spark plug through the cross hole I drilled earlier. That keeps the wire tucked in and prevents it from getting pinched when you're working. Then I connected the loose end of the red wire to its washer, matching what I had done with the blue wire. At this point, the handle felt good, in the hand balanced and ready for the graphite tip. I slid the sharpened graphite core into the tip of the spark plug. It should seat firmly so it doesn't shift when it heats up. Then I brought in the drill battery we revived earlier. I clipped the blue washer to the negative side and the red washer to the positive side, making sure each connection was solid. Once both clips were locked in, the tool was ready to produce heat. To test it, I stacked 2 razor blades together and clipped the alligator clamp onto them to hold them steady. When I touched the graphite tip to the metal, the current heated the graphite instantly. You'll see the metal soften and start to fuse right away. Keeping a steady hand, I held the tip in place until the 2 blades bonded into one solid piece. This shows you how much control and heat this little setup can deliver using just a spark plug, a battery, and a graphite core. Now I wanted to see how this homemade welder handled a real repair, so I brought in a stainless steel cup with a broken handle. I cut a few small pieces of steel to use as filler. After setting the cup in a steady position, I placed one of the steel pieces right at the gap where the handle had separated. With the alligator clamp holding the cup, I touched the heated graphite tip to the filler piece. It softened almost right away and fused into the break. I added another small piece to build up the joint and repeated the same motion until the handle was locked back in place. This simple setup delivers enough focused heat to melt and bond small metal parts, and it works surprisingly well for quick fixes around the house. And that wraps it up. We brought a dead drill battery back to life and turned a simple spark plug into a tool that can handle real repairs. It's the kind of project that reminds you how far a little patience and know-how can go. If you enjoyed this and want more practical ideas you can use at home, make sure you subscribe and check back for the next project.